Hey everybody, welcome to Fab Fit Friday. I am super excited about today's topic because, sometimes I pick topics that are viewer driven. So if I want to do something that you guys want to do, or if I know there's a project you guys want, I love to do that. And then sometimes I look at my schedule and I'm thinking about my to-do list, and in this particular case, I'm doing what I want to do list. So, and I'm hoping you want to do it with me because I thought it might be interesting for you to see my process when it comes to designing a new pattern. And I have had these jeans on my list for a very, very long time. I bought a pair of really funky jeans at the Salvation Army probably about 10 years ago. And these jeans have been sitting in my pile of inspiration for literally almost 10 years. And they never fit, they were too small. So it's not something that I could have just, worn, because I totally would have worn them. Hey Mary, welcome. So I thought I would make my jean sloper and then show you guys how I think I'm going to design these this new pattern. So right now it's just me and Mary, so I'm going to switch over to my... Oh, before I get going, I just want to tell you guys, this weekend I am teaching alterations for stitches at home. If anybody's interested in learning to alter their ready to wear, I'm teaching a tops and a so like a tops version tomorrow from 11 to 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then Sunday I'm teaching the pants version, jeans and pants, from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if anyone would like to join me there, that's at Stitches at Home October, and I'll put a link to that below the video when I get off. And then starting next Wednesday, I am teaching the Great Rub-Off for Master the Art of Sewing. And there's only, I think, 4 people in this class, and I decided, I want to teach it because it is the most fascinating topic that one of my most favorite things to teach, because I really get to geek out on, making pattern pieces from clothes without taking them apart. So if anybody's interested in learning how to rub off a garment, this would be a great opportunity because it's stretched out to 3 Wednesdays in a row starting the 13th, and it's from 5:30 to 8. And I think what's going to happen in this particular class is we'll breeze through all the beginner and really easy rub-off things, and then we'll move on to more complicated rub-off things that I didn't have time to teach when I taught it for stitches last month. So if anybody's interested in learning how to rub off a garment, I will put a link to Master the Art of Sewing rub-off class, and it starts this Wednesday, coming up Wednesday the 13th. So those are my little announcements. Normally I wait till the end, but let me just say hello to my 2 Dianes. Hi, Diane and Diane. Oh, I feel like it's the 3 amigos, Mary, Diane, and Diane. All right, well, we're going to get started now. Let me start by showing you the jeans themselves. So I'm going to move this out of the way here. All right, so these are the jeans, and they're really, really cool. Just zoom in a little bit here and make it a little bit brighter. Wait, it's going to blow out. Hold on, sorry. I just want you to be able to see the details here. So basically, these jeans have first of all, the fly is really cool. It's got buttons that button straight through to the front, so you can see your buttons. So that's kind of cool. And then there's 2 snaps down here. So one of the things about button fly is sometimes it's a little bit hard to button the buttons way down low here. So I think it's kind of interesting that the first two things that are closures are snaps. Hey PG, welcome. I hope everybody's doing okay. I feel like I'm in, like, I have like my favorite, I mean, I have a lot of favorites, but I love you ladies. Thank you guys for joining me. So these snaps close the first part, and then we have 3 buttons up at the top. And then if you notice, there is no waist. This yoke goes all the way around. So if I turn them around, you can see the back is a yoke as well. And it has no back pockets. So if I show you the back, there are no pockets back there, but that's to be determined. I might decide I still want to do pockets below the yoke. We'll see. But you can see they're in really bad condition. This is how I bought them. And I washed them several times, and I couldn't get these stains out. So I'm guessing that's probably why they ended up at the Salvation Army. But the other thing that's really, really cool here is the yoke is double. So if I pinch it away here, you can see it's got 2, you know, it's basically a lined yoke. So the outer yoke, the edge is pressed down and finished that way, and then the lining of the yoke extends from the bottom to the top, and it's just a narrow 3-thread finishes that, and then they let that stick up at the top. So I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if I'm gonna have it be finished like that or not, but I just thought that was an interesting detail here, to have the, you know, the lining to the yoke sticking out above the finished yoke on the outside. So that's kind of cool. Then we have these really cool pockets. Now these pockets are not functional in these jeans. I mean, they are, but literally they're only that deep. So they're literally these short little decorative pockets with some stitching underneath. And then the legs are shaped by fisheye darts. And it's funny because for the first, I don't know, 5, 6, even 7 years, I would pull these out to look at them, and I was, you know, considering making this pattern for a long time, and it never occurred to me that there was no side seam until recently. So if I fold it this way, like if I fold it this way, so you can see the side, okay, you can see there is no side seam, okay, there is a seam at the knee. So this is very typical if you're making, you know, leather jeans, because there's not enough yardage in a leather, you know, in a piece of leather to make a full leg. So you usually have a seam like right above your knee. So there's a seam there, and then there are, you know, there's dart shaping down here, and then the hem is kind of a cool hem. It's got a piece of good old-fashioned twill tape sewn, and then it's flipped up. So it's, you know, finished on the wrong side, but then on the right side, all the seam allowances are, you know, in here, and then they top stitched along the seam between the jeans and the twill tape. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool. It's finished, it's, you know, it's turned up, but kind of a different, unique way. So this is what I'm going to be playing with today in terms of making a pattern. Oh, hi, let me just say hi. Hi, Pat, welcome. And hi, Cynthia. Oh, Ottawa, Canada. Oh, thank you. You love my videos. Well, I'm so happy you love them. Thank you for joining me. And I think Monday is Monday Thanksgiving in Canada? Because I think I saw that on my calendar. So happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian friends. All right, so this is what it is, and I just want to show you. If I pull it back like this, you can see the leg has a little bit of a flare to it, so it's a little bit of a boot cut here. You can see it's a very clean, simple design. Now, here is going to be our challenge. in order to not have a side seam, the side edge needs to be straight. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that means. So we're going to play with making this today. I did make a sketch, and I think I shared this in my group and on my Instagram, but let me show you again here. Hi, Creative Renewal. Welcome. Jeans are my specialty. I did not make those jeans. I am going to attempt to make a pattern of those jeans today. That's what I'm going to do. So I drew this sketch to kind of keep my design process, you know, in check. But those are the details of the jeans I just showed you. Now, the original pair does not have darts on the back leg. However, I really feel like, based on all the fitting I've been doing with people, having that option to have darts will help draw that in and create the curve in the hip that we need. So I think I am going to include those in the back. Hi, Lena. Oh my goodness, this is like International Fab Fit Friday. Wait a minute, we have St. John's, Newfoundland, and Cape Town, South Africa. Hi, CK, welcome. Oh, I'm so happy to have you all. So I have friends from near and far. This is wonderful. So super excited about this. I'm super excited about you guys watching. So let me show you this here. Okay, so this is my sloper. And what I mean by my sloper, this is my non-stretch jean sloper. And traditionally, if you're going to be designing a new design, it's easier to do that without the seam allowances, because then you don't have to keep track of what's on the edge that's extra. And then after you finish your design, you would add them back in later. So here's what I'm thinking right out of the gate. Because there is a seam at the knee, I think just to make it easier to work with, I'm going to work with the top parts of the legs, and then I'll work with the bottom parts of the legs, because we have a few things to do. You'll notice, especially if I show you my back here, you see my back sloper, you can see that there is a pretty good curve going on here, which we have to deal with. So I'm going to start by just cutting off the legs, and it'll also make it more manageable. But I'm going to use a ruler because I want them to be really tidy. Oh, and I guess I can show you here, Lena, oh no, Creative Renewal, let me just show you here. I actually decided to wear these jeans I did make. Okay, so these are my non-stretch jeans that I made out of my red non-stretch denim from LA Finch fabric. So I did actually make a pair that I'm actually wearing today, and they have absolutely no stretch, and they're very comfortable, and I can sit, and you'll notice in the back I don't get any slide. Okay, so I am actually wearing jeans that I made today. Okay, let's see. Oh, hi Maria from Toronto. Maria says, have you ever converted a pair of jeans into a skirt? Yes, as a matter of fact, that is another fun project that I love to do, and I actually have a workbook in my online store showing how to make jeans into a skirt, and it's a very non-traditional skirt. It's not just, you know, flipped in the front and with the little V in the front. It's kind of cool. So the answer to that is yes. Oh, Diane says her very best friend is from Newfoundland. And we have Marva from Seattle, Washington. Welcome, ladies. I hope I got to everybody here. Ooh, this is so much fun. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the legs at the knee, and that will make it easier for me to work with these pieces. But like I said, I'm gonna be really picky about how I do things with this now because we're making a pattern. So I'm gonna cut off this little skinny strip right here is my yoke. And you can see without the seam allowances it looks really tiny. I have a very narrow yoke. So I'm just gonna cut that off and put that with the back leg. And then I'm gonna just label this back leg just so I attach it back to the right one. And then let me cut off my front leg here. Okay. Oh, sorry, front leg. Front. All right, so now I have these pieces here we can work with. Okay, so to get this to be like the jeans, this is going to have to, these seams are going to have to be straight because the pattern piece for this is all going to be one piece. So the front and back will be attached here, kind of like my one-piece yoga pants pattern. So if anybody has my one-piece yoga pants pattern, this is exactly what we're doing. We're going to make these straight, and we're also going to design a yoke. So those are the things we're going to think about. So I think to start out, let's start at the very top. I'm going to start with the back leg here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut out, I'm going to cut this yoke out and I'm going to reattach it to the back leg. Because if you remember when I showed you the back of these jeans do not have a traditional back yoke. It's got a yoke that goes all the way around front to back. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put that right there. And you can see we can't just tape that back on because it's got a curve to it. And actually, if I have it backwards, it goes like this. And actually that's where the dart goes. Okay, so if you are used to making pants with darts here, okay, they end up on the side when you develop the yoke from a pants sloper. So that's where the waist darts go from pants into jeans. It turns into a dart that's basically on the side seam. So if anybody was wondering about that, that's how you get the shaping for the back of your jeans. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw two little slash lines. I'm just going to separate them, sort of spread them out evenly, and then I'm going to slash them. So I'm going to slash through the top. Oh, but I want to leave them connected at the bottom. I want to make like a pivot there. So I'm going to use my Scotch tape to make a stronger pivot. So if you put a piece of Scotch tape at the bottom, then you can create a stronger pivot. So see, we've got pivots now like this, and what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to straighten out the yoke. All right, so I'm just going to put this back over here. And I'm just going to straighten it out, and I'm going to tape it on. And when I make the yokes, I make them a little bit smaller or a little bit shorter so they stretch on to fit. So I'm going to basically just make this fit like this. So it's going to have a little bit of a break in it, but that's all right. Because we're going to be developing a waist yoke once we get this all back together. Okay, so now I've got this on here like this, and you can see now it's straight. Just going to use pattern weights here to hold that there. Okay. All right, so I've got this on like this. And you can see these darts are not even, but I don't care about that right now because I'll be fitting this later All right, so now we've put the yoke back on, and notice I just taped it right to the edges because I took the seam allowances out already. So that takes care of that. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to sort of even it up like this. I don't want to change the side seam because the side seam agrees. So we're here, and then I have a 1.5 inch wide finished waistband on top, you know, that gets sewn on when I make jeans. So I'm going to add that back in too. And the reason why I'm adding that is because, remember, there's no waistband on these jeans, it's a yoke. So I'm going to add the waistband height back on as well. And I'm just going to sort of true that up so it kind of looks like that. Okay, so this is our, basically this was our waistband, you know, the height that we would have gotten from the waistband once it was sewed together. This is the back yoke. Okay, and then this is the back leg. So I've got all those pieces built back onto the top of the back leg here. So now what we can do is we can bring in our front and we can decide how wide of a yoke we want. And I'm not interested in copying the original jeans that I am copying these jeans, but you know, just to give us a proportion here, this measures, the original yoke measures 3.5 inches. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with 4 inches because this is a very small size. So I think I'll just make the yoke just a 1/2 inch wider than that. So to get my yoke pieces, what I'm going to do is I am going to measure down 4 inches, and I'll start here, and I'll just draw, I'm going to measure all the way you know, 4 inches from the top of the back. Now, we have to remember that I opened the darts that create the shape. So this piece is going to have to be fitted on after, because it's going to really be more of a C shape. Right now it's pretty straight, but once I develop it into the complete yoke, it's going to have more of a curve to it. But for now, I am just going to cut this off. I mean, and it is a pretty straight line here, so I'm just going to cut it off like this. All right, so I'm going to just put this somewhere safe. This is going to be our back yoke. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the front now. I'm going to measure down 4 inches. I'm just going to make a note. This is my side seam. This is my side seam over here. I just want to make sure I keep track of all the important things. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut this off. This is my front yoke. Okay, we'll deal with that later. Okay, Mary says, I like a wide yoke in the front. I'm not sure a wide yoke would fit on my butt. Well, here's why, Mary, I think it will fit on your butt. It's not going to be on your butt. The back yoke is going to be in place of the back waistband, the back yoke, and I think between those things, if you measure your center back yoke and your back waistband, it's going to be close to 4 inches. So this back yoke is not going to be on your butt. It's going to be on your waist and your lower back. It's not going to be on your butt. So I think it'll be okay. All right, so now we have the issue of making these pieces oh, did you know that I made a mistake? Can anyone say what mistake I made? I can see that my side seam here is very short, and the reason why it's very short is because I didn't add the waistband onto this. So let me just fix this. I made a boo-boo already. You gotta watch me carefully, because sometimes I do something silly, like now. All right, so I'm taping this back on because that's not where we're cutting off the front leg. All right. Sorry about that, ladies. Let me just tape this back on like I mean it. All right, so again, we want to make sure it agrees, so I have to add that 1.5 inches up here first. So I'm adding the waistband back on. This percolated into my mind when I was explaining to Mary about the width of the yoke. All right, so here is the waistband. And now if I measure down 4 inches, it's going to put us over here, which I think that's going to feel better in terms of matching with the side seams matching. All right, so let me cut this off here. All right, so there's my new front yoke. That's correct. Okay. I'm just gonna, whenever I make a mistake like that, I want to tape the back of the pattern too, just to make sure nothing happens. Okay, so now as I was saying, now I'm laying these next to each other, and you can see they look like they agree before. So we want to be able to tape these together to make a straight line. And you can see what's going to happen here is that let me draw, okay, so the hip curve goes out to here, and I use the alphanumeric paper specifically because I can use the grid on the paper to draw my straight lines. So you can see like this continues here. So that's the straight line is, you know, from here to here we have, that's a big difference. You know, if we were just to make it straight, that's going to make this area from here to here gigantic. Let me see if I can, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I want to get this difference down a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to move my side seam, this part of my side seam, I want to move it over. So I think I'm going to take the middle of it for now. I'm going to find the middle, which is about here. So if I can move it this much, 1.5 inches down here. So from here to here, it's going to be 1.5 inches. I'm just going to make myself some guidelines. I'm not going to draw across the whole thing, so I don't want to make it look like a mess. But over here, it's only 1 inch. So let me just draw my crotch level here. So my crotch level is right here. Okay, so that's my crotch level. And at my crotch level, it's about 1 inch. And then halfway, let's do halfway. I'll do here. So here, if I want to find the halfway point, it's here. It's still just about 1 inch. Well, that's, okay, so this is, okay, so the halfway here would really be a half an inch, an inch, and an inch and a half. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, just to make it easy so you can see what I'm doing here, I am going to, I'm going to mark, I'm going to take up some of that on my inseam. So starting about here, I'm going to move that in. Let's see what that looks like. So if I were to draw myself, let me get my curved ruler. And I think I'm going to switch to pencil. Let's see what this is looking like. So if I do something like this with my pencil, okay, so I'm going to get rid of 1.5 here. This is about an inch, and over here we have almost a half an inch right there. Okay, so I'm getting rid of that. So now all of this is going to be gone. So that's going to allow me to, over here, I'm going to go from that half an inch to nothing like this. So let me just make it look like this, and let's see what this looks like. Okay, so now if I were to draw that in, and I think I like that, so I'm going to draw it in. Hey Netwear, welcome. I'm showing how I'm going to draft this new jeans pattern. Okay, so if any of you have my, I designed a salvage denim jean pattern. The side seam is completely straight all the way to the top. All the shaping comes from the inseam. Okay, so in this case, we are going to create a pattern where not all the shape, but you know, some of the shape is being created by the darts in the legs. So right now, let me just show you what I did here. I just want to measure this. So our original leg was 9 3/4 here. Well, the new leg measures 9 3/4. So I haven't changed the measurement. I just shifted 1 1/2 inch this way so far. And you can see now our side seam is getting closer to being straight. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shift this part of the pattern over . I'm going to shift it over a half an inch this way, or maybe a little bit more to here, like this. And you can see that's really going to let us, make a straight side seam. Okay. All right, so I'm going to leave this like this. Okay, then of course, what that's also doing is if I move that over like that, then I can also get rid of this little half an inch here. So like this little bit right here, I'm going to add it over here. Let's just add it all the way down. So this is going to be our final answer, so I'm going to cut this off. And then what I can do is I can measure from my final inseam . Let's measure that 9. Oops. Let's measure that 9 1/4 here. So 9 3/4 now puts us right here. So this is right. So now I've got my 9 3/4. Oh, all right. No, I can't. All right. So I added to that. All right. So I'm going to leave that like that. But then what I'm going to do is, let me just make a straight line here. Let me just get to the straight line, and then I'll show you how we're going to make the shape. All right, so this is going to be our final straight line here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this off. Okay, so now this is straight. And my total is, remember it was 9 3/4. So now I'm going to measure it again, and now we have, it's now 11 1/2. So 11 1/2 minus 9 3/4 equals 1/4, 2 1/4 inches. Okay, so the leg is 2 1/4 inches bigger than it was before I started shifting things around. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the amount that I added here to connect this, I'm going to take that back off. So I'm going to just, let me just take this off here. So I don't want to make a 1-inch fisheye dart on the back leg. So the only other place we can get the shaping is over here. So if I just bring this back over like this, we'll just get rid of it like that. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be my final answer for my inseam, like that. And my final side, my final leg is measuring 10 1/2. So it's still 3/4 of an inch too big. It's, I mean, I'm sorry, it's 10 1/2. So it was 9 3/4. So now it's only 3/4 of an inch bigger than it was before. And that is a good amount to make a fisheye dart. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this one aside, and we're going to look at this. Now the front leg is not going to be as difficult to skinny up, because if I draw my straight line, you can see there's less to deal with here. I probably should have started with this one first, but you'll see that to make this straight, I only have an 1 3/4 difference between the straight and the shape. So I'm gonna leave an inch in there. So I only need to get rid of, so if I leave it an inch bigger, then I only have to move this in 3/4 of an inch over here. So this one's easy because now I'm just gonna do this. You know, and of course I'm gonna have to play with it, but basically if I cut off this, then, you know, I've gotten rid of the extra pretty easily in the front. Let me just, oh, actually I'm not gonna cut that off. All right, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these two pieces and I'm gonna tape them together like this, right on the straight line. And this is going to be our pattern piece. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing here? I'm shifting, in the back I shifted the shaping here so I could let this out. So now I have a straight line here. And then in the front I did the same thing. And now I'm going to tape my front and back legs together here. Okay, so now this is my top of my leg pattern piece, and it looks like a big flaming mess because I drew all those lines in Sharpie marker. But I'm just going to cut this out so we can look at it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this a neat copy. Okay. All right, so here is what our top of our legs is going to look like. And once I make a sample, I can then see how this is going to work and if I need to change the shape of my inseams. Oh, Diane says I'm going to wait. Okay, I'm showing this to you. Okay, so partially this Fab Fit Friday is a little bit selfish because I'm having a hard time finding time to work on these kinds of projects and also come up with other separate projects to do during Fab Fit Friday. So today I melded together this project with Fab Fit Friday just so you can kind of see a behind the scenes. I'm not expecting you to reproduce this unless you're interested in trying to do it yourself. I'm just showing you how I'm developing this. And then I'm going to test it, and I'm going to fine-tune it, and I'm going to make it into a pattern to sell. So that is my ultimate goal, but I just thought it might be fun to see, you know, how I'm doing this. Now, I will say that I wasn't thinking about the complication of having no side seam. So if I make this up and I don't love it and I feel like it's going to be hard for people to fit without having that side seam, I can go back and add the side seam back in. So don't feel like you have to try this unless you, I mean, if you want to try it, I would love for you to try it. Oh, that's what was funking up my, I was wondering why my lighting was off. I had left that other thing on, so now I can have better lighting. Oh, hi, Lee. Lee says, hello, tuning in, new to all of this and fascinated with construction. This is great. Diane says, I love watching this and learning. And Lena says, you can be selfish as you want. I'm enjoying your method. All right, well, sometimes, you know, they go off the rails. But basically, this is now going to be my top piece. So when I sew this, I'm going to sew it, you know, it's only has an inseam, no side seam. And remember, I already took the seam allowances off. So I may make a neat copy of this in a minute, but for now, that takes care of my top portion. And what I'm going to do here is, let's bring back, actually, let me just make a neat copy here. I want to make a neat copy because I want to show you how we're going to create the shaping. And this is going to be the difference between having salvage denim jeans that have a straight side seam and then having a pair of jeans that does not have a side seam but also has shaping. So let me just trace us a neat copy so you're not looking at this mess. It'll only take me a second. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly draw myself okay, I obviously do not need this paper. I'm going to get rid of that for the moment. Then I'm going to use my big ruler to draw myself my center, my side seam, or where my side seam would be. And I'm going to put this back here like this. Okay. All right, and then I'm just going to quickly give it a trace. Oh, of course. All right, I'm going to move it over a little bit because now I don't have room to add a seam allowance. That's annoying when I do that. Let me just make a second line here. All right, there's going to be two lines. One's going to be the side seam and one is going to be a boo-boo. Just make a new one here, sorry. I cut it too close. All right, so this line is going to be where my side seam is. Then I'm just going to put this like this. And then I'm just quickly going to trace it. Alright, let me just trace this. I think better if I don't have a mess too. Okay, and then I'm just gonna use my ruler to draw that, and I can use my ruler to draw this. All right. Okay, so now we have a neat copy. Okay, the only thing that's funky about it is I have these two lines, so really this line is nothing. Okay, so that's what it looks like now. Let's see. We have a second lady. Hi, Miss D from Cape Town, South Africa. We have CK is from Cape Town, South Africa as well, so welcome to both of you. And thank you, CK, for my skills. We'll see. Sometimes, you know, I mean, I've been doing this kind of stuff for a while, but every time I do a new project like this, especially one with all this different stuff going on, it's a little bit. All right, so the reason why I wanted to make a neat copy is because I want to then make sure that the bottoms of the legs are going to agree with the tops of the legs. So let me just bring those back here. So here's my bottoms. So right out of the gate, actually, let me just move this out of the way for a second. So right out of the gate, the easy thing to do here is I am going to sew these, I'm going to tape these together at the side seam. So I'm going to cut off this one. Okay. And I'm going to tape it to this one. So we have a one-piece bottom leg as well. Because there's no side seam all the way down to the hem on these. You know, and of course, and as I'm taping all of this together, I'm thinking to myself, well, if there was a side seam, then we could do a bunch of other stuff. Oh, CK has her mom watching even though she doesn't sew. It is so nice. All right, so, all right, let me just tape this here. All right, so I'm taping this down, and so now we've got a one-piece lower leg as well. And I can see that I don't match up exactly, like I've got a little bit of a thing going on there. So I'm gonna have to, we're gonna true all this stuff up before we, you know, before I sew it together. But basically now I wanna make sure the length of this matches the bottom of the top. Let's check this out. All right, so let's match this up and see what we have. Okay, so if I match up, well, that's interesting. So the top leg is, a little bit bigger, so let me just make a note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that. Let me put the leg on top. Oh, well, it would be bigger because we're going to add the darts to the inside, so it's going to make it, we'll make it even. Oh, Diane sees embellishment on jeans without side seams. Yes. Yes, indeed. I see that too, Diane. All right. So we're gonna extend or make the, let me use a different color here. How about a nice, I'll use this blue instead. So I'm gonna basically just make these match. And the reason why I'm doing that is because we're going to have those darts to add shape in the leg, in the top of the leg and the bottom of the leg. So this leg fits me snug without any darts. So like if I lift my leg up here to show you, so see, this is what the bottom of the leg that I'm working with looks like. You can see there's no room to put a dart. So we need to, ouch. We need to add the room to make the darts. So I'm going to extend these so that they agree with the top of the leg. I'm just going to draw short little lines here, because then the other thing is, let's give the hem a little flare and make it boot cut. Okay, so basically I am just going to add just a little bit. When you can only work with when you can only, trying to decide here. You know what? I'm going to have it go all the way down, changing my mind. We're going to add flare to the hem like we would an A-line skirt. So instead of just adding to the side, I think I'm going to slash and spread it. And I'll show you why in a minute. All right, so this is going to be our new inseam. This light blue is going to be our new inseam. And then over here, this is going to be our new inseam. Make sure I'm adding. Okay. All right, so okay, so I want to add a little bit of flare to this leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here. I don't want to just add it to the side. I'm just going to add a little bit like that and a little bit over here. So we'll do one at a time. So let me just use, I'm going to cut this off. Well, let me just get, we'll use this paper here. So I'm just going to make myself a strip. All right, and then we're going to add some flare. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to shape the top a little bit. And I think that that will make it hang nicer than just adding a wedge on the side and keeping this straight. because if we just add the wedge to the side, it may just stick out on the, it'll just stick out on the inseams instead of making a nice boot cut shape. So that's why I want to, let me just spread that a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to tape, and I can already see I'm going to run out of tape probably, but I'm going to tape it here, like I mean it. And let's spread it just, I'm going to add an 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches here, and then I'm just going to tape it back down like this. So I'm adding flare to the hem. Okay, so I added this much flare here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing in the back. I can cut off this extra. I'll use the other side of it for the other side. Alright, so let's add flare here. So again, I am just going to put this paper under here. And I'll tape it. I always tape it down on one side first and then adjust. So like if I just tape it here first, that'll keep it from flipping around. Oops. Okay. All right. Okay, so let me just tape this. Oops. Okay, then I can open this one up. I'm going to open it the same amount. So I'm making the back leg 1.5 inches wider as well to give it a little bit of a boot cut. All right. Okay, so now we have our bottom leg all set. So I've added here, flare. All right. Let me just see. Pat says, watching you problem solve in real time is a big benefit. Are you slashing and spreading to allow for an even flare shape? Yes, I am, Pat. Because like I was explaining, I think, like if I were to just, if I wanted to make like a little bit of a boot cut here, but I did it in a way where I just added, added the flare on the side like this. Sometimes when you do that, especially if you're working with a really substantial denim, what will happen is your inseam will flare out and point in and make little, it'll come in on the inseams instead of creating a nice flared shape. So that's why I decided to slash and spread in the middle. And that way it'll be like a, like an A-line skirt instead of just adding to the side. So that's why I decided to try that. And at the top, you can, it didn't really, like if I turn this upside down here, you're going to see that now the top has a slightly curved shape to it. See how, like if I put the ruler here, see how the sides peek out a little bit? So this has got a slightly curved shape now. Okay, and I think that that will contribute to the way it hangs on, off of that seam. So just to neaten or tidy, I'm just going to cut off these extra little pieces here. All right. All right, so this is going to be our lower leg. All right, so we've got our upper and lower legs are taken care of now. So the next thing I want to show you is, let me get the original jeans back here. This is what fascinated me because I did an article for Threads magazine on salvage denim jeans, and there are no patterns for women except for mine, because Threads looked and I looked. And the reason why that is because most women cannot wear salvage denim jeans with a straight side seam because you have hip curves. So this fascinates me, and this is why I'm really kind of excited about this, because let me just show you here. Okay, so if we look at this, you can see that there are the fisheye darts. Let me just make it so you can see. Okay, so in this case, they took out probably 3/4 of an inch at the middle, you know, and then they go to nothing to nothing. Okay, so those fisheye darts are at the top and the front, and then in the bottom, they go all the way from nothing, you know, a few, you know, pretty far from the knee. I mean, that's probably a good 8 inches from the knee, but then it goes all the way to an actual dart at the hem. So what I'm going to do is on the tops, let's work with the tops first. See, we don't have, you know, the shaping in here. Oops. Okay, so the shaping is all being created by these inseams. Okay, so in order to create more, you know, and usually, let me draw my crotch level in the back here. So my crotch level in the back is here. You know, obviously my crotch level in the front is higher. So I'm just going to draw over here. So these lines don't match. I just want to show you where the crotch levels are. So in the back, I'm going to draw in the middle of the back of the leg. So let's see. This is 11 and a half. So let's go 5 3/4. Let's say this is the approximate middle this way. And then right here, let's say this is 12, so we'll say 6. All right, so we're going to go with right here. I'm going to draw. I'm going to draw a line for a dart. Now I don't want it to be, I don't want this dart to look like it's going up your butt, right? So I'm going to start it, let's start it about 3 inches down. And then let's stop it an inch before the knee. So then I can, okay, so if you remember, my back leg was about 3/4 of an inch bigger than it was when I started. So I'm going to make a 3/4 inch dart here. And I think this is going to like help with the shaping. So I didn't just take a jeans pattern and just add a dart to it. I actually added the width so then I could take it back up again. Now, the cool thing about this is, let's say you always have extra in here that you can't get rid of. If we were to add a back pocket, so let's say we decided at the end of the day we wanted to have a pocket. So let me just draw a pocket. Let's say this is going to be our pocket. Let me get, let's say, I'm just making a random shaped pocket here. Let's just say that this is this is not a serious pocket. This is just an idea for a pocket. Like, let's say we had a pocket on the back leg, and I kind of centered it between, you know, where the side seam and the center back seam is. If you're, if you had extra here and you needed to get rid of it here, you could extend this fisheye dart so it ended up just under the pocket. Okay, so if we decide to put a pocket, you could do that. But for now, because I'm not sure I'm going to do a pocket, I'm just going to do this as my dart in the back. And then in the front, I'm going to make a similar dart. And I'm freely admitting to you that I'm going to play with the actual, the actual position of that. Basically, it's going to be a similar, a similar dart here. And what this is going to do is it's going to create shaping like a curved side seam would. Okay, so you can see it's going to pull it in and make shaping. So those are the darts for the top of the leg. And then for the bottom of the leg, I don't need that. I just want to make sure, where's my, Alright, so for the bottom of the leg, we want to make sure we put them so they stack up evenly with each other. So basically I'm going to line this back up here, and I'm just going to continue my line. Alright, so this is another boo-boo-ish I made. I should have made them on the bottom first because the bottom has a discrete middle. So the middle of my leg is 5.5, which is right here. So I'm just going to do 5.5. Well, no, 11. Oh no, I have flare, so it isn't. I'm sorry. Let me just find out where the middle of my leg is. So down here, it's 11.5. So that's, 5 3/4. So this is the middle of the leg. But then when I put this here, see where the middle of the leg is compared to where I drew this? So see, this is really where it needs to be. So that's a screw up number 2. Let's keep track, that'll be fun. See how many boo-boos I make. So let me just get this straight. This is straight and lined up. This is the middle of my leg down here. I'll just make sure this is right. Alright. Let me just measure this. Okay, so this is 10.5, so that's 5 1/4. So really it's right there. Okay. So I'm going to use red or orange so you can really see now with the, so our, oops. Keep that nice. So this is where our grain line is. So, pattern making 101, you should always establish your grain lines before you add any details that you might need them. Okay, so now I know that this dart needs to be over here, and then the dart down here needs to be right on top of each other so it's stacked. So I'm just going to move this over there. I'm going to do it later. I don't want to make a honking mess on here on live camera. But for the bottom, we added 1.5 inches. I don't want to get rid of all of that. So I'm just going to make a starting maybe, let's go 8 inches down. I'm going to make a dart that is, we'll just make it a 3/4 inch dart like this. So we'll do this skinny little dart like this. So here's the dart for the bottom. So we're getting rid of a little bit down here, but we're also getting rid of a little bit all the way up, so it's still going to have an A-line shape. But there's my dart for there, and then like I said, I'm just going to move this green dart over to the orange line so it lines stacks on top of each other. And then in the front, let me see if that's as screwed up as the back. So the middle of my leg is, so that's 8.5, so 4 1/4 is right here. All right, so my front one isn't as screwed up as my back one is, but I will move it over later. All right, so this is 5. Let me just draw this. Now, one of the downfalls of using alphanumeric paper is if you're relying on the grid and then you flare something, your grid is all screwed up then. So that's why I'm using a bright orange, so you can see. So if I'm going to line this up now to match, okay, this orange line is going to continue up like this. And I will redraw that. I will redraw this so it's right centered on my orange line. And then in the front, I'm going to make that similar dart, and I think I can just make it the same height. So I'll just measure across like this. So I'm just going to draw a line like this. All right, so there's the top of that, and then it's going to be a little 3/4, my dart here. All right, so now I have my shaping for my leg. Okay, so I've got the 2 darts at the bottom. I've got my, the shaping here. Like I said, I'll fix that later. Okay, but I just don't want to make it look like a big honking mess. All right, so the bottom part is done. All I have left to do is add seam allowances. Remember, I don't have seam allowances, so I'm going to add seam allowances around the whole outside edge after I finish designing this. But the last thing we're going to deal with, there's a couple things here. For now, I'm not gonna do the little front pocket now because I want to test the fit before I do the front pocket. However, let's just look at it. Okay, so you can see that this front pocket is, just right at the top of the leg. So basically, we need to leave room for our fly. So the width of our pocket has to be, it's going to be different because this is small, but basically we want to make sure we have room for a fly. So I'm going to just mark that out. So for now, I'm just going to mark out 1 1/4 inches. I'm just going to dash in. This is going to be my fly-ish, something like that. I mean, I don't know for sure yet, but I just know that that's taken up by fly top stitching. So then I have from my fly top stitching to my side seam, I have 8 and almost 3/4 inches. And I obviously don't want my front pocket to wrap around the side, so let's give us an inch. Let's say 1.5 inches. I'll say 1.5 inches from my side seam there, and I'm going to go ahead and make this, I'm going to move this in a little bit too. So let's make that front pocket 6.5 inches. So we're going to make it from here to here. And then let's make it so it's, I don't know, maybe 1.25 inches deep at the center. So then I'm just going to use my curve, oops, not that, my curve, just to curve it in, so it'll be something like this. But like I said, I'm not going to put this in until I test the rest of it. But it'll be something like this. Okay, so there will be the front pocket shape. Okay. And that's going to complete this part for now. I'm going to have to deal with the fly and everything, but I'm going to deal with that later. Oh, Nana73 Carol says, this is like watching an architect. A messy architect that makes boo-boos. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now we want to deal with this one last thing here. We have our yoke. So I'm going to cut off one side. Do I want to cut the side? Yeah, I want to cut the side seam off. One side seam off. And I'm going to tape it to the other side seam like this. Okay, and to get the shape close, what I'm going to do here is I should have done this before I did this before I came on. But basically now, remember, we opened the back dart, so it's bigger than it should be. The front is the way it is, but I'm just going to measure how much the top of the yoke measured before I split it. So this is 2 3/8. This is 2 3/4 fourths, and this is 4 3/8. 4 3/8. So if I add my 3/8 and 3/8 together, I get 3/4. So 3/4. So that's this and this equals 6 3/4, and then 2 3/4. So that's 9.5. Okay, so the top of my yoke measured 9.5 inches. Let's measure what it measures now. It measures 10. So what I'm going to do, what did I say, wait, I should have wrote that down. All right, 6 3/4 plus 2 3/4 is 9.5. So I have to get rid of a 1/2 inch up at the top here to make, well, I have to get rid of a 1/2 inch down here, even more up here, because remember the waist is going to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to guesstimate that the top of my waistband is probably even a 1/2 inch smaller than my yoke, if that makes sense. So it's 9.5 here. This measures 10. Measures 10. So I'm going to take an inch out of this, because I don't have to worry about the front, because I don't have any shaping in there that I need to worry about, but the back needs to fit or it's going to gape away from me. So I'm going to get rid of 1 inch because I feel like the top of my waist is smaller than the top of my yoke by about a 1/2 inch, I'm guessing. That's a guess. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw myself 2 slash lines and sort of centered in the back, and I'm going to cut this. Oh, and I'm going to overlap at a 1/2 inch on both of them. So let me just draw that so you can see. And then that's going to give us more of the curved yoke shape. So when I close these, it's going to curve the back of the yoke. Alright, and then I'm just going to do this. Oops. Alright, so I'm just going to pivot this one in. Take that. So that looks more reasonable in terms of a shape for my yoke. It's got more of a curve, a little bit of a gentle curve. Now, the cool thing is about this pattern, it'll be really easy for you to adjust if you have a really defined waist. You'll be able to create even more shaping. And like if you had a defined waist, you could also create some curve in the front as well. So, but for me, my belly is the same size as my butt, basically, almost. So I need this to cover my belly, but this will fit the small of my back. So I know earlier Mary had said she was worried this wouldn't work because she was afraid this wide yoke wouldn't fit on her butt. But I just want to show you that this really encompasses the waistband and the original back yoke, you know, down your center back. Okay, so that's the pattern. So I've got my yoke, which will sew to the top of my leg. Now, the one thing I want to check is I want to make sure that this matches. So I'm going to flip it upside down and I'm going to walk it along. So this is how you walk a pattern. I'm going to match it up at the center back. And I'm just going to slide it along the line. And we're going to make sure it matches. Oops. All right, it's almost exact on the side seam, so that's good. It's a little bit off, but that's all right. And then it's about a 1/4 inch shorter than my center front, but I'd want to ease that in. So I think I'm happy with this. So basically now, that's what the back is going to look like. And you can see, there's my dart still, right? So to create shaping for your waist, oh, if I do it, I mean, now it's going to be, you know, like this, but still, there's the dart. So it moved from being at the side seam before, when it was a yoke and a back leg. Now the dart goes from the center back here. So when it's sewn together, it will create shaping. So that's the pattern. I'm super excited. And I'm kind of happy you guys, you know, enjoyed watching me. I wasn't sure if you guys were going to think this was boring or not, but I'm really excited about this. So I am going to add seam allowances, and I'll just mark them for you so you know. Because I'm not doing a flat felled seam at the top of the back leg, I'm going to just put 1/2 inch seam allowances everywhere. I'm going to add safety seam allowances onto my side. So I think I'll make my side seam allowances 2 inches, but then sew at 2 inches. So if I need to let it out and adjust things, I'll have room to let out the muslin, you know, just to see if I need to fuss with anything. But basically, I'm just going to put 1/2 inch everywhere. And for now, you know, I have to develop my pieces for the fly. Maybe next week for Fab Fit Friday, what I'll do is we'll develop all the pocket pieces and the fly pieces, plus I can show you the fit of how this fits. So that's going to be my plan going forward with this, but I'm super excited about this. I've been dying to start this project for such a long time, so I'm super happy it started. Let's get my other leg here. So I'm going to cut this out of just regular muslin to start, and that's my plan. So yay. So anyway, I just want to thank you guys. I know we went a little bit over, but I want to thank you for watching me. If you have any questions about developing a pattern, or if you have any, you know, any questions about that, please post them and I will help you. If you're new to the group and you're on Facebook, please consider joining my J Stern Designs Fit Sew Embroider Facebook group, because I try to give member perks like telling you what I'm going to be doing before everybody else knows, or posting more behind the scenes, or you know, whatever. So consider joining me there. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. You have made my day. I'll be completely honest. I feel very honored that you take time out of your day to watch. So thank you so much, and I will see you next Friday with a um, progress on this pattern, and probably I'll show you how to develop all the small pieces, like the fly and the pocket pieces, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I hope you enjoy your weekend. It's Columbus Day weekend, so if anybody has a long holiday, that'll give you more sewing time. And if anybody is in my alterations classes for Stitches at Home this weekend, I'll see you tomorrow and Sunday. And if you want to learn about the alterations classes or the great rub-off I'm teaching Wednesday for Mastery Art of Sewing, I'm going to get off and I'm going to put those links right in the description as soon as I'm done. So thank you so much, and I see people are thanking me. Oh, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all your kind words too. All right, so yay. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.